You have an art installation, you're calling it Sula, from the Toni Morrison novel. Yeah. Presents a transformative and immersive celebration of Black girlhood and community through the medium of portraiture and a coming-of-age journey. And with different ones, like on the left, you have a table with different things that what do they represent?
So the whole theme of the show is Black girlhood and community. So I have like multiple photos throughout the whole exhibit of just either me and my mom, or that's my great grandma on my mom's side. And I also brought like some hair products and like books that really reminded me of the theme. So
that's your great grandma on the left?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a cool painting. Was that from a photo? You painted that?
Well, the painting that's a self-portrait that I did, I think, sometime in high school.
Yeah.
And then the small photograph is my great-grandma.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
In the right, the painting on the right?
That's my friend from college. So I painted a lot of, like, my friends and, like, my God family and my close family.
Because it's about girlhood and coming of age as a young Black woman. Mm-hmm. So all of these people who have been really instrumental in your life.
Yeah.
Okay, go to the next slide. And who are these? The one on the right, by the way, who's that?
That's my friend Chris. He's my college friend.
Oh, man.
He's
an undergrad?
Yeah.
He looks like a really cool guy.
Yeah.
Or you painted him as a cool guy.
Thanks. Yeah. But that's my friend Sophia. A lot of my friends that I've made in college were like a part of my scholarship program. So I met them over orientation, and they're like my roommates now, or just people that I stayed close with. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, next slide.
This one's another self-portrait. I did it last summer. I got a chance to study at the New York Academy of Art for a few weeks. So I got to do that painting. And then I have like this childhood book that I happen to find in my garage, and like books that I've just been collecting over the time.
Okay, so I'm going to just leave this one up here as we have our conversation, right? How often do you think about your coming-of-age journey, or that it has been directly shaped by the past?
I feel like I think about it all the time, because I am in this like point of my life. I'm in college, so I can reflect a lot on like childhood with my friends, and then I'm also looking towards the future. Mm-hmm. And just like the current political climate, I think about the past a lot, and like how we got shaped, like what systems shaped us to be who we are today. So it's something I think of kind of all the time.
And for you, it's Black girlhood. Mm-hmm. It's not girlhood.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, so many young, if I look out here and I think, okay, there are a lot of white women here who are artists.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't do white girlhood.
Right.
So talk about how does that play into the past?
I feel like girlhood, that's something that is easier for the majority of the world to pinpoint, because whenever we say like childhood or like girlhood, we're already talking about like white people's experience by default. So I wanted to specify Black girlhood because it's kind of like how conversations about feminism end up being. Like there's like more of a focus on the white female experience, and you can just see that like historically, like with white suffragists, they were pushing for like the white woman's vote. It wasn't really including Black people. So I wanted to specify Black girlhood because there's like both the system of oppression that you have to deal with race and gender, and that's such a unique intersectional experience. But also from like a child standpoint, like when I think of my little sister, she doesn't know like how complex the world can be when it comes to systems of oppression. It's kind of like an experience like the fish in the water. You don't really know you're in water until you like learn about it, or until you're validated with like books like Toni Morrison, or I'm always like, all my friends are mostly Black, so I'm always talking to them, and to me our norm is the norm. But when I talk to like the public, or like the PWI, like it's always a disconnect, because they think of girlhood, they don't include Black girlhood in their girlhood.
Yeah, which is really an important reason, or why I wanted to have this conversation with you, because it's cool, right? I mean, it's just like this class is about highlighting all the ways in which we're the same and all the ways in which we're different. Mm-hmm. And both are equally fascinating, right? All the things that tie us together, like tie you together with everyone in class, but all the other young women in class, but also just these ways in which you have you and other black women, young black women here, have also a unique experience. Yeah. Not everybody, because you're all different, right? Mm-hmm. Everyone's different. But, right. So in class, here, I wrote this thing out that I'm going to read, and then I'm going to ask you my next question. Okay. So in the last class, we discussed the different ways in which families and cultures have the power to define who we are. Okay, and people can lead, as I just said, people can lead really lovely lives, not reaching back into their families or their cultures. Just like, hey, I'm just an American, or I'm just a person. I don't think about that, and it doesn't matter, and that's fine. I thought we demonstrated that really well last class. So you don't need to be connected. There are other young black women here at Penn State who are not connected to Black Girlhood. And if they went to your art installation, they wouldn't really connect to it, because for them, it's not. Yeah,
I think some parts of it, because because of slavery, I'm not connected to my African roots. I don't know, I only did a 23andMe. That's my only connection to where my past. Your
long ago ancestors.
Yeah. So I would say sometimes you can't always identify this part of my experience is directly tied to my race. So it might resonate in ways that's different, because every black woman's experience is different, and it's not always this is my race, and then this is my gender, and this is my class, and this is how they connect. Yeah. But sometimes it's just so ingrained that when you see it,
Yeah. I got you. Christian right here, who's going to volunteer later, if he went to your installation, okay, so you got a lot of people out here who'd be like, this installation on Black Girlhood, what would you want him to take away? Because you did this for everybody. Anybody can go. Yeah. And you wanted to appeal to everybody. So what would you want?
Yeah, I feel when I made the exhibit, I wasn't really thinking, no offense, but I wasn't thinking of Christian when I was making it. I was kind of doing it more as a reflection of my family and my community. Mm-hmm. And I feel when it comes to, I put it on here in Penn State because I had the resources to do it. So this was more for the black community, or the black female community at Penn State. I would want people like Christian to gain a new perspective, but if it's only a select few, I feel even if it's just me, I did my due diligence. But I think people like Christian, I guess white men, when you walk in, I'm trying to see I don't know a lot what you would get from it, but maybe even just looking at the books that are there and trying out a new novel instead of reading books that's always about white people for white people, or even seeing the artwork. Everyone there is a person of color depicted, and you don't always see that in museums, or you don't see that in your classrooms. So I think the exposure alone for people like Christian could be good, but I think the intention wasn't for specific audiences like him. Yeah. Which is I think a good thing.
So it's just put ourselves, or put me in your shoes. Yeah. Right. So one of the reasons I really like teaching the class is because I meet so many people from all over, and then I put myself in their shoes, and then I have some kind of experience. Yeah. And I think why not? But I've read Toni Morrison, right? Mm-hmm. What is it? Song of Solomon? Yeah. And have you read that?
No, that's on my list, but I've read Home, I read The Bluest Eye, I read Sula, and I think I started reading Kindred. And
So I have a question about that, but there's this character in Song of Solomon, the milkman, that's just it's just cool, right? So there's a question from someone who's watching the stream in Germany. He wants to know what was the thing that has influenced your art more than anything else. What has influenced your art more than anything else?
I think it's my lived-in experiences. I used to do a lot of self-portraits, like all the time, but since last summer, I kind of shifted to like family and friends. And I think just for self-portraits, you do a lot of self-reflection because you're looking at yourself all the time, and all your self-portraits kind of end up looking differently as you age. So I think right now, my community is what's like shaping my art the most, and also the institutions that I just find myself in all the time. It's usually PWIs, but even like when I made this piece, I was studying at the New York Academy of Art, and I had it was my first time being around art students because I'm a STEM major, so I'm not really used to that. And I remember the people that I thought were like household names or like the most inspirational person in my life that was like helping me with my art was like my Nana or like my best friend that I knew since I was 2. And when I brought up like Black artists, they just did not know them at all. And it was just another experience of like, wow, I'm like, when they think of artistry, they only think of, usually it's white oriented, and I'm like trying to pick up the crumbs and like find the puzzle pieces to actually find the Black artists. So I think it's like institutions and also my community shape my art.
So here's what's really interesting that comes up for me, and if you can comment on that, and then we'll. If you were from Puerto Rico, let's say you were from Venezuela, and we were having this conversation, and you were talking about, my Venezuelan grandmother and my Venezuelan community and how important that is for me and who I am and my identity. Nobody would question that. Everyone would say, oh yeah, she's from Venezuela. Of course, that's important to her.
Yeah.
But as an African American woman, people will sometimes question, like, well, why do you focus on that? Like, why do you focus on your Black ancestor? You know, you're an American and you're living here in America. But again, if you're Puerto Rican, it's fine.
Yeah.
But your history, is no different than if you were Venezuelan.
Yeah.
Just like mine is no different. Just because I have my own unique history, right? So if I were exploring that constantly, then that would be perfectly fine.
Yeah.
So do you have
a thought on that?
Yeah, just a thought on that.
Yeah, I feel like I watched an interview and Toni Morrison was like asked a similar question about like why she never really shows like white characters in her books. And I just feel like, to me, when I think of, it's like the whole having the context of systems of oppression. When I think of how many other stories had white characters, or even with my art, how many other white artists have the platform to only show white people, or even like in most of my art history classes, I have to actively seek Black artists. It's just like you get a sprinkle of it in the Harlem Renaissance, but that's it. And it makes it seem like, oh, Black, like, or even African art with Picasso, it's like, oh, only Black people are there to inspire white people, and that's usually the curriculum we learn, or like what's in our museums and stuff like that. So I feel like the necessary perspective is we have the majority of white art being promoted, or white literature, and like just because this one artist chose to feature Black people, it's not like a tug to like the white, because they're always going to be represented.
And you know what? I would say that the vast majority of, we're just going to stick with white people here for a second, but it could be anybody here in the United States, any groups, don't really know Black culture, man. Like, okay, we say like, oh yeah, we do, but no, you really don't. And so kind of doing what you're doing offers an opportunity for people to have a window into something that they really, generally speaking, don't have a window into.
Yeah.
So-
I feel like it's also not actively like sought after because even now I'm still learning bits of Black history, even though I actively seek it because obviously I have a personal connection to. I find out things about like the past all the time.
Yeah.
Like recently I learned that like college clubs, like before Black people had entry to colleges, they would use like Black children as like mascots for like college clubs. And like there's hundreds of pictures of like Black children in front of like all these white college students. So even like things like that, like we think that we're so like detached from like the past when really it's like right behind us.
Oh, man.
So, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to cut right there because that leads us to our next segment, this case study we're going to do, which is really going to be, that's a perfect segue.